With just 2 races left on the calendar, it's time to battle for championships in the Continental Tire SportsCar Challenge. In Grand Sport, 18-year-old rookie Trent Hinman has had a breakout year. But veterans Robin Liddell and Andrew Davis have spent the summer chasing him down and now lead by just 2 points. Street Tuner is even closer as Will Nonamaker and Eric Foss are separated by just 1 point. With everything on the line, it's time for the penultimate race of the season at Circuit of the Americas right now on Fox Sports. Now in its 3rd year as the home of World Championship Motorsports in the United States, the Circuit of the Americas plays host to the next to last round of the Continental Tire SportsCar Challenge for 2014. Welcome to the Lone Star Le Mans from Austin, Texas. Very dark clouds overhead. Weather very much could be a factor in today's race. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Varsha along with Calvin Fish and Dorsey Schrader. 2 races to go in the season, a maximum of 70 points, and no fewer than 24 drivers from 9 teams in the Grand Sport class, 7 in ST, still alive for the title. But at least in GS, Calvin, everybody's going to be watching just 2 cars.
Well, there's plenty of players still in the game, Bob, but essentially it is a 2-horse race. Young Trent Hinman has led this championship since the 2nd round at Sebring, but throughout the course of this summer, the Camaros have been coming on strong, winning races, and finally, with their 5th podium of the year, Andrew Davis, Robin Liddell have assumed the lead of this championship. It was a 13-point swing in VIR, giving them a 2-point lead. But be interesting to see today how Hinman and his co-driver John Edwards can respond to this challenge. But Dorsey, as tight as this GS championship is, the ST battle is even tighter.
It is unbelievable. Wayne Nonamaker has a scant 1-point lead over Eric Foss. Now remember, going back into the last race at VIR, it was 8 points. So definitely momentum is in Foss's court right now. Another car to watch is back in 4th place, and it's our reigning champions, Terry Burcheller, Mike Lamara, 21 points, 2 races. That's a doable deal.
No question about it. Now let's get down to the pit lane and hear from our reporters. First with the GS story, here's Chris Neville.
Well, Bob, you talk about that GS championship. Robin Liddell, Andrew Davis in the number 6 car. They're starting 6th today, and they have been so strong the second half of this season. 2 wins, 2 second places, and one of those second places coming to VIR. They had to start at the back of the grid that day, and young Trent Hinman chasing them in this championship. Well, he stumbled at VIR, finishing 12th that day, and in qualifying here yesterday, this team has started on the front row 6 times. They're starting 9th here today. Finally, all the way up at the front, that blue Mustang, it's Billy Johnson behind the wheel. Surprisingly, his first pole position in Continental Tire Challenge. He and the Multimatic team trying to get Mustang their first win of the year. Brian?
Well, in ST, your championship point leader, Wayne Nonamaker, is going to have to watch his brother, Will, start way back in 18th in class, and that's going to be a challenge to move forward. He's going to hope that Will is careful in turn 1 in what could be a very congested corner. 2nd and 3rd in the championship sit 2nd on the grid for Jeff Mosing and Eric Foss. It's a great qualifying effort, especially where the 42 is starting. They need to be clean and run up front. But the guys who could play the biggest factor in this championship actually start on the pole. Raymond Rashidi and his teammate Adam Eisman, they start on the pole for the 3rd time in the last 5 races. They also have a victory in there. They're 6th in the championship, and while they may be out of it for the championship hunt, they can certainly affect others with a good run here today.
There you see the field making its way around with those very dark clouds in the background. Let's talk a little bit about Circuit of the Americas, Dorsey.
Thanks to Google Earth, we'll drop down from outer space there near Austin, Texas. This is the Mac Daddy. Built for Formula One, it's a beautiful long racetrack, 3.4 miles. The big number here, 20 different turns, high-speed racetrack, but very technical. Car placement is of the utmost importance.
There's a 133-foot elevation change, and all of it happens right on the front straightaway from the starting line to the top of the hill at turn 1. Big left-hander, always an action-packed corner. There's our Continental Tire starting grid across the top of your screen. Blue name backgrounds for the GS drivers. We'll have gold for the ST class. And let's check onboard cameras and all of the contending cars in GS. Andrew Davis starts 5th in the GS class in his Stevenson Autosport Camaro Z28. And there's the number 46. Worst starting position of the year, as you heard, for the fall line BMW, Trent Hinman and John Edwards.
Yeah, those boys have certainly got a lot of work to do here today, and now we're on board here with our pole sitter, Billy Johnson, in the 158 Multimatic Mustang Boss 302R. First pole for Bill. He's had so much success in this series, but typically he doesn't qualify, so he and Ian James should be strong here today.
Just look at that sky over the Nissan safety car. And you know, every driver in this bumper crop, 51 cars in 2 classes, is also looking at that sky thinking, oh my goodness, what are we in for?
Now, my weatherman would say there's a chance of showers today.
And he'd be right. About a 70% chance. And it's very hot and humid. So when that track gets wet, it takes a long time to dry out at 87% humidity. Approaching the 20th and final corner, the Nissan safety car pulls off.
Teammates on the front row here. They should be able to control this.
And they turn up the front straightaway toward what we like to call Phil Hill for America's 1961 Formula One world champion.
Oh, stack up here, everybody on the brakes.
Yeah. The GS cars in their own field.
Green, green, green.
ST coming up behind.
Camaro's to the front. The car that's missing is the Rum Bum Porsche, qualified third. We'll have to check that story out. Look at this, side by side, down into turn 1.
Pair of Mustang Boss 302s right there. Teammates, as you said, Calvin. They'll slot in right now and get ready for the S's.
No matter how wide the... Oh, we've got a Nissan spun. That grass is wet and it gets to the fence. Another car involved as well. Here's the ST start.
Oh, and look at the flare in the back. Somebody's on pit lane. That's definitely not a good line.
Wow, look at that, 5-6 abreast. This circuit is so wide and offers tremendous racing opportunities.
You got to watch that turn 1 with that big, huge approach to entries. You get collected at the apex there if you're not careful.
I think that may have been Brad Jaeger in the number 14 GS class car, now parked against the Armco.
You want to get single file by the time you get in these S's. They are really important to a good lap here, and if you mess up the beginning, you're behind all the way. Here's trouble, the 8 car off in the wall.
Oh, that's a shame. It's a great qualifying effort by Anthony Mantella in the Aston Martin. Look further back. Oh, you see there, one of the Astons got turned and got into Brad Jaeger.
Yeah, it wasn't the Aston's fault. You're right, Calvin.
Yeah,
he
I think
got
that is
turned.
Mantella, actually, his car.
I think it is.
8 car was a victim.
That's a shame. They look for great things here today.
Here's the long backstretch between the hairpin at turn 11 and the heavy braking area for turn 12. 3/4 of a mile long, top speed.
Oh, this is a problem here. This is
Stuck
Tim
throttle
Bell.
or something. He's got stuck throttle.
Can't get it stopped.
Big hit.
Big hit.
Big hit.
You could see him. He had not stopped that car. It was completely stuck wide open. Guarantee it.
That
Man.
Nissan 370Z just came into that brake zone and just wasn't slowing down. He ducked to the right to avoid the cars immediately in front of him. Big
Full
impact,
course.
but we see the safety barrier there. Hopefully did its job, Dorsey.
Yeah, that was a big hit, and you could see it coming from a long way. Car just kept accelerating.
That car's been pretty quick here this weekend. Dane Cameron was second yesterday in one of the practice sessions, and Tim put together a great qualifying run, slotting into the top 10 also.
Flag official Tony Miller has the yellow out, the double yellow full course with the safety car. On board the number 6. Andrew Davis qualified and started the car in 3rd. He's dropped back to 5th place.
4 Camaros in the top 5 right now.
Trent Hinman in the 46. He's running where he started in 9th. Now there is the site of the incident. Look at that car up against the collapsible energy attenuating crash barriers. Brian Till, what do we know?
Just checked in with the team, asked if it was a stuck throttle. No, but just as bad, no brake. So the pedal to the floor at the end of that high-speed braking zone. Tim had nothing that he could do. Big impact with the barrier, as you said. They were talking to him on the radio, so a good conversation there. It's good to hear that he's awake and communicating with his crew.
Yeah, you could tell something wrong there. That car was clearly out of control. You saw him giving up on trying to make the S's. He was going too quick. He knew it. He tried to scrub speed by wiggling the car around.
Yeah, maybe trying to spin it a little bit into the gravel trap. But just too much speed at the end of that long straight. There's the tire tracks where he went through the kitty litter.
Hit the brake and nothing happened. Nothing happened at all.
Tell he's
Here he's
winded.
winded.
Right
Of
there.
course. Yeah, he's out
That's
of the
a big
car.
hit.
That's great news. That's really a testimony to the safety of the cars
And the
the
barrier.
regulations and certainly the barriers in
Yeah.
the runoff room here.
Those barriers absorbed a lot of impact right there. You can see from the damage done to the barrier.
First year of operations for Tim Bell Racing, and they've had their moments, finished 4th at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, but along the way I've had issues like this, little mechanical gremlins, so they'll get on top of this and come back stronger, hopefully for the last round of the championship and for next year.
On board with Andrew Davis in the number 6.
Whoa.
And there goes Tim Bell at unabated speed.
Standing to turn 12 at the end of that long back straightaway.
He did throw it sideways in the gravel trap. You'll see it right here. He's trying to get rid of speed right now. He knows he's in big trouble. Nothing going on. Watch when he gets into gravel right here. He gets it sideways, tries to slow the car as much as possible before impact.
And that was the championship leader. I think he narrowly avoided. So if he hadn't taken that action, we could be seeing our championship leader in the gravel as well.
That's a scary moment. You're doing everything you can do as a driver right there, but really you can't do anything but hold on.
Boy, when that hatch came open just before the impact, all you could think of was a car taking flight, but fortunately it did not. Brian.
Well, guys, Calvin, you're talking about it. They had run this car. It's new to the team, and they have struggled a little bit this year, but curiously enough, one of the things that they've been working on and trying to make better is the brake package. So perhaps in some of that effort to get it done, they've either missed something or in trying something new, it just didn't work. But as a race car driver, we all know when you come off the throttle, A, you want the engine to begin to decelerate, and 2, when your foot goes to the brake pedal, you want that pedal firm. And obviously a problem right there as they're trying to develop this car. This time they got bit.
This sadly will be a mechanical issue because first lap, guys, you haven't really been on the brakes yet, so it's not going to be a boiled brake fluid situation. It's going to be something left loose. It's going to be something out of the ordinary.
Certainly a dramatic start to round 11 of the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge for 2014. We were thinking championship coming in. Right now our thoughts are with Tim Bell after this massive impact and a full course caution.
How you doing? I'm Shelby Blackstock, driver number 48, Fall Line Motors, BMW M3. This is the track analysis for Circuit of the Americas. My favorite part of the track is the S's all the way up until turn 9 and turn 10. Part of the S's, it's a huge time gain or loss through there. If you mess up on the very first part, it's going to really mess you up all the way through. So to get a good clean run through the S's and all the way through 8 and 9 is really going to make a big difference on lap time through this track and what makes it one of the best tracks in the States. So happy to be here and happy to be able to race on it.
Yeah, that was terrific young racing driver Shelby Blackstock, son of entertainment legend Reba McEntire. I'm sure is very proud of her son, who has proven himself in both fendered and open-wheeled cars. There you see the work continuing on the track wall just off of turn 12, and there is the reason Tim Bell from Cornelius, North Carolina, in his own Nissan 370Z lost the brakes.
Watch this. You talk about speed. Watch your right.
That's our championship leader that we're on board with there, so he gets narrowly missed and just huge impact. Here's another view of it. Realizes no one is at home when he hits that brake pedal door, so he takes evasive action, but he's going straight. He can't really scrub any speed across the gravel trap.
He would have been pumping that brake pedal like mad. That's what he was doing, trying to shake some speed off of the car. Look at that.
Oh,
that's well into the, over 100 mile per hour hit right here. Probably 125, 130, I bet you.
After the asphalt braking area, after the gravel trap, after the grass, which is admittedly wet and slick. You're right, Dorsey. That was a huge hit.
The good news with that car was it stayed down when he got through. A scary thing to do, turn sideways in that gravel trap. Sometimes it'll trip the car up and get you starting to roll. That car stayed flat the whole way through there, and that's a good thing.
I'd estimate he's probably done about $130 right there. Huge speed at the end of that long straightaway.
And wearing his Hans head and neck restraint to keep the helmet from yanking his neck.
That's a good point right there, because that sideways hit like that's the worst one you can take on.
The exact worst one you could have. Let's get down to the pit lane to Brian Till.
Well, Andrew Palmer's behind the wheel of the number 7 Porsche right now. He shares that with Al Carter. Al, you're working very hard this weekend. You've got a Tudor race, you've got the Conti race today, but I know it's fun out on the racetrack, and certainly I said it's hard work, but there's a more serious cause here this weekend than just having fun driving a race car.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't always my style, but it's September's Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, so having the Be Positive Foundation on the car, it's always good. And before the race, we had a couple hundred fans sign the hood, and it's good to have everybody be a part of it, and it's good for the kids. Now, and it really appreciate everything that everybody does for the foundation, and it's kind of lucky that I get to kind of be the front guy and I get all the high fives and all the other stuff, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes that do a lot of work, so just say thank you and appreciate everybody that supports it. Real quick, also want to thank you guys at Fox. You know, when I get home, I just can't wait to see the race because there's so much going on out there, as seen with that, and good to see our good buddy Tim Bell walk away from that. That was a big hit. And real quick, shout out to all my friends in Delaware, Kyle, Megan, Liz. Love you guys. See you.
It's a great cause, Alan. I think Calvin will probably be looking for a gold LeMay hat like that as well.
Just for him.
I think I've seen something similar in Brian's closet, but I can't quite remember.
Brian's hanging close to the candy bar. Did you see all that bit behind him right there?
Well, Al Carter has a reason to support cancer awareness. He himself is a cancer survivor. He has ties here to the Austin area. He is a very busy man this weekend. He and his co-driver Andrew Palmer started their Porsche 997 14th. Palmer currently has the car up into 8th. Still under caution. We'll be back. Welcome back to Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, and the Lone Star Le Mans, round 11 of the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge for 2014. I'm Bob Varsha with Calvin Fish and Dorsey Schrader. The yellow flag has been withdrawn. The safety car is off the track, and we are ready to go back to green flag racing.
They don't even have a rhythm going yet.
You see the time remaining in this 2.5-hour race at the top of your screen. Billy Johnson started from pole, and he has his Mustang out front over the similar car of Scott Maxwell.
Eric Curran there looking to the inside of Max Riddle up into turn 1. That big, wide, expansive braking zone really makes it tempting, Dorsey.
Boy, you can dive bomb in there and get yourself in all kind of trouble if you don't know what you're doing, and it happens a lot here. Here comes the rum-bum Porsche guys from the back. It did not take the start.
Former championship team, they have had an absolutely brutal season. Brian Till, what's the story?
I think the story, Bob, is they used up all their good luck over the last couple of seasons. As you said, it's been a dismal season. Didn't even get to the green flag today. They lost the serpentine belt in the back. Now, that happened at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, so it's something they're familiar with. They don't know why it happened, but they had to replace that belt, and that took a lot of time. They're back on track, but they are well down the order.
Driver change there this weekend as well. Nick Long, who's been with that team for so long and shared so much of their success, has stepped aside, and it's actually Hugh Plum, Matt Plum's brother, who's actually now co-driving here this weekend. I believe Brandon Davis is going to be behind the wheel at the final round at Petit Le Mans.
Well, it's turned into more or less a test session for them, I would say, at this point, because they're so far down. All they can do is acclimate themselves with the car. This has been a terrible year for those, such a well-prepared team, and they have just really had it all go bad this year.
Following there, the number 12 car is Shane Lewis.
Yeah.
You can see the rear bumper cover there is loose. He's had a little bit of argy-bargy here in the opening laps.
Yeah, somebody's been ruffling his feathers a little bit.
This track not only has more turns than these drivers see at one single facility all year, it's also one of the widest, and you can see lots of room to try alternative lines.
That usually gets you in trouble when you do that. That's what's so hard about this racetrack. As big as it is, it's got a finite line, and with all that expanse out there, you can try things that don't usually work.
Yeah, there's lots of real estate, and last year coming here for the first time, the drivers were really struggling to identify where that line should be. But most of these guys are here for the second time or more, haven't run in other series as well, and certainly get the hang of things. It makes for great racing. There's wonderful overtaking opportunities, which are relatively safe, good runoff areas, as we've already seen here today. But up front, see a couple of Mustangs, then 2 Camaros.
Third place car is a bit of a mover. That's Max Riddle, who started in 6th place in the Aston Martin.
See how this turn 1 tightens really down on you. You know, you got a big expanse entry, so you can carry a lot of speed, but it pinches down, and you got to get the car slowed by there.
Just about to brag on Max Riddle going all the way up to 3rd. He suddenly has dropped back to 5th place, right behind the car you're riding with. Championship leading Stevenson Camaro Z28R.
He probably tried one of your alternate lines.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Curran got around him, and then Davis was through as well. But certainly a great start for Max Riddle, and those guys coming off a big win at VIR with the AMG Aston Martin.
You see the running order in Street Tuner. Adam Eisman, Jeff Mosing, who's in the championship conversation in that class. Stephen McAleer was on the winning driver team last year here.
Oh, that was a coming out party for Stephen McAleer here last year, Dorsey. What a performance. And that Mazda is looking racy again. He takes second spot there. Slices down to the inside of Jeff Mosing. What a nice move.
It was moves like that last year that caught our attention, Cal. And,
look at the speed that Mazda takes, and he's got the next position. He's taking the lead.
Wow.
He just whittled his way
And look
right
at that.
through
That's opened up the door here for Mosing. He's up to second, so he's by Eisman. Great little battle here for the ST lead.
Top 5 all running together, nose to tail, door to door. And I've got to think, Calvin and Doris, that they're looking at those skies thinking, I need to get to the front now in case the rain falls.
Look at the hand signals now between the front two cars. See him in there? Look at, he's waving everybody. He's waving on. Let's go. Let's work together. He's saying, let's get away from these guys.
They're working together there. Their line astern. Certainly, Mosing wasn't pulling out. He's a local driver, of course, based here in Texas. Look at this. The 75 car looks to the front. Eisman is coming as well.
He said, yeah, I'll help you.
Brakes are so good on that Mazda. And the other thing about that little MX-5, it's really well suited with the gear ratios. Spoke to Ryan Eversley yesterday, and they said with our car, we're in between gears on a number of the corners, and that Mazda is just so well suited. It's really just horses for courses. You'll go to a different racetrack. You can't change the individual gear ratios like you can in other race cars. This is pretty much a stock, a spec gearbox, so you have to live with it. And some racetracks it will suit, some it will not.
Kyle Gimble got a little nudge there from Mark Pombo in the 25.
All these guys are pushing and shoving a little bit. They're really aggressive by nature. The Mazdas have run good here every time we've seen them here.
Battle's cooled a little bit. Let's hear from Brian Till.
Spoke with Jeff Mosing just before the start of the race about that Cayman. Now, remember, he and Eric Foss started the season at Murillo Racing in a BMW, and then they moved to the Cayman a little bit later in the season. And he said, we just now are getting comfortable with it. We chased a couple of bit parts here and there and finally have gotten comfortable with it. So we feel like we've got a race car that we can push a little harder with, be a little bit more aggressive with right now. And I think that's what you're seeing, just the give and take and the momentum that this racetrack demands. And that's one of the reasons the Mazdas are so good here. The other thing to think about this racetrack, it is hot, long, fast corners. They will wear on the tires. Those light Mazdas up front might have an advantage.
Yeah, being rear-wheel drive as well, certainly the front-wheel drive Honda and stuff, they're going to suffer a little bit over the longer stint. But look at McAleer, he's just flying here through the S's. Great stuff.
The number 5 from C.J. Wilson Racing. Wilson, of course, an all-star Major League Baseball pitcher, now pitching for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, but had a glittering career with the local favorites, the Texas Rangers. So this team has a lot of ties to the Lone Star State.
I'm impressed with McAleer's car and how well it transitions left to right. The whole nature of the car stays flat. He doesn't roll much. They've really got the handling.
Oh, look at that, Mosing up on the curb there. that was really cool. Two Caymans going at it now. There has been a little bit of a balance of performance or adjustment of performance, as they now call it, between a couple of the marks here in the field. These Caymans have been pegged back 100 RPM since the last round of VIR, and the Camaros, that are a big fact here in the GS Championship, they've been pegged back with restrictor and RPM, so it should affect their performance here today.
That's got to make life difficult when you're in the heat of a championship fight. 2 races to go, 70 points on the table over those 2 races to decide the 2014 champions. You've got to mess with the balance and the performance of your car.
That's why you want to show your speed progressively throughout the year, so you don't get the big lead weight on you.
You walk up and down pit lane and you get very varied comments on whether they're good changes or bad, depending on which side of the fence you're on, as you would expect.
This is the GS battle. Look up ahead, and
another one of those.
Riddle, I think, down to the inside.
Yeah.
Oh, and he gets into Maxwell.
That's that big entry radius again. You simply can't just disappear at the apex. You know, that's the only thing you got to really watch for.
Yeah.
Once you get in that position.
It feels and looks like a clean move, but it's very hard for the driver who's cutting across on the normal racing line, as Scott Maxwell was, to actually know that the other guy is just sitting there right at the apex.
Now we understand that the stewards are reviewing that piece of videotape. We'll monitor that situation. Meanwhile, here's Brian.
Remember, Ricchetti, you're watching right now, his teammate Adam Eisman out there, and cars drop back a little bit, Ramo. How hard do you guys want to push? How hard is Adam pushing from the start here? Not burn up Continental tires, make sure that you've got a race car to get into.
Yeah, for sure. Goal is to keep the car close to the front, so we're staying in the top 5. I think that's good for us. We can hold the lead. The Mazdas look really fast. We got a really big dark cloud above us here, so we'll see how the race pans out.
If the rain comes, is the Porsche going to be better than the Mazdas in the rain?
I'm not sure. You know, we've had no rain races this year, so I know yesterday practice we were quick in the rain, so we should be okay, but we'll find out.
We'll find out. It's an unknown for everybody in Continental Tire if the skies open up, Bob.
Boy, both Rashidi and Eisman are young Canadians, and they were an absolute revelation in the series round at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in Bowmanville, Ontario. There's the rain. Will it come, and how heavily? We'll be back. Back in Austin, Texas, and Circuit of the Americas as part of the Lone Star Le Mans for the Continental Tire SportsCar Challenge. I'm Bob Porsche with Calvin Fish and Dorsey Schrader. Chris Neville and Brian Till are in the pit lane. You're on board the pole-sitting Grand Sport Mustang being driven by Billy Johnson, number 158. And any minute now, we're likely to see rain splattering on that windshield.
Yes, coming across really quickly right now, so they're certainly going to factor this in. One thing they're going to be looking at in terms of timelines is 45 minutes in, you can do a driver change and score points. So we're getting pretty close to that mark, just 3 minutes away if they should need to do a pit stop and change to a more treaded tire. So lots of action on pit lane, I'm sure, with all of the strategists and engineers trying to figure out which way to go if we do see some rain here early.
To Brian.
You guys were talking about the number 12 body motion Porsche with Shane Lewis behind the wheel a little bit earlier. He's now sitting on pit lane. Car overheating, a little bit of damage to the back of it, but they were losing water from one of the radiators up front. They added more. They said, we think it's fixed. But in all my years of racing, Dorsey, I'm pretty convinced that radiators don't fix themselves. So if they've got a leak somewhere, I'm sure it's going to come back when the pressure gets back up in the system.
Dump about a gallon of bars leak in there and a little water and maybe hope. But that's the only thing that's going to fix it. They're going to try to fasten that back together. ST still a war up front here.
Yep.
No surprise. You know, Calvin, with that 45 minutes coming up, the thing is, nobody's going to make a pit stop with that rain hanging around. Because if you came in, then it rained, and you didn't change, you know, it'd be a gamble.
Yeah, it's a gamble. It depends on your track position. It's a long lap here, so you may be able to get in, get that driver change done. Then if it does go yellow, you'd then sort of like stack back up to the rest of the pack, and you could be in good shape. So
it's a luck draw for sure.
It is. It's a big gamble, and you've got to make sure that pit stop is clean if you do take it under green.
Let's look at Kyle Gimple, trailing ST class leader Stephen McAleer, who's basically checked out from this little dogfight. Chris Neville.
Well, Bob, he's checked out. He's got the lead of this thing, and the team says that they are trying to enjoy that because they've got a transmission issue with that car. The team just told me that when he's got light throttle or not a lot of load in the drivetrain, it keeps popping out of gear. And as you can see with this racetrack, there's lots of rights and lefts, and every time he starts to come off the throttle a little bit, that car pops out of gear.
That's not a good thing at all. And it's not an easy fix either. You know, it'd be different if there weren't 20 turns. But with 20 turns, you know, you could do a bungee cord or whatever if you were stuck in one gear for a long way, but that's not the case.
You don't want to try to hold that gear lever in place and steer with the other hand.
Yeah, you could try that, but that wears out the part that's bad already in the gearbox if you do that.
Billy Johnson looking pretty comfortable here at the front. I think they've really turned these Multimatic keep saying Assens for thinking about last year with these Mustangs around this year by changing to the Multimatic shock package. They hadn't run it for the beginning of this year. It's really transformed these cars. They've really suddenly found a lot of speed. Spoke to Ian James about it yesterday. He said it really helps me with my driving style. I didn't like the old setup that we had. Now I can run the same pace as Billy. We're a really potent combination for a race win here this weekend.
There's Eric Curran in the number 01 Camaro Z28R. And Andrew Davis in the championship leader, and the sister car from Stevenson Motorsports in the hands of Andy Lally.
And you'd have to think at some stage if these were running in this position that maybe someone from GM would be walking down pit lane, Dorsey, and saying, we've got a championship leader there right behind you. You may need to help us out here today.
Yeah, there'll be some discussion there without the doubt before the day goes on. You know, we get closer to the end and we know how the whole race is playing out. That range is kind of hovering right where we're at. It hasn't done anything yet.
You can see it there right off turn 19 and 20.
One thing I've learned, though, in the last 2 days about this big state of Texas is nothing happens small here, including the rain. When it comes, man, does it come.
Well, we can see it on the windows of our commentary position. You can see it there on the camera lens. But is it enough for these slick tires that are up to racing temperatures? or you're going to have to go to a wetter tire?
It'd be a downpour before you had to do it. I mean, they've got good heat. That's a very good point. The racetrack's nice and warm, too. So the water just dissipates right now. But if it really starts to pour, well, then you got a whole different scenario. And it was wet this morning. We watched some practice sessions this morning. This place looks slippery when it's wet.
We have had huge downpours, real frog swallowers, the last couple of nights here in the Austin, Texas area. So if you get off track, the grass is wet. Some of the corners are backed by a bit of plastic mat or AstroTurf, and that is just as slick as it can be.
Looking at our championship leader, his car, Wayne Nonamaker behind the wheel right now. So looks like Will must have jumped out on an earlier pit stop here. They're not worried about points for Will, just getting Wayne in the car and playing a strategy call there early in the race.
Back down to Brian.
Kyle Gimble's having another good run in the Compass 360 Honda out there. Ryan Eversley, you're looking on. You're looking up at the sky as well. Cloud cover, rain. You got a smile on your face. You may be one of the few people out here who wants it to actually get here.
The Honda, people don't understand that front-wheel drive cars are really good in the rain. We do. So we're really, I mean, I had my Twitter followers tweeting me that they were going to do a rain dance. We had like an electrical storm last night. So if it rains, we're going to be in contention. Right now, Kyle is driving for his life. I can't believe how fast he's going. The cloud cover's helping our front tires because we're front-wheel drive. We're the only front-wheel drive car up there. So if it rains, it'd be very good. If the sun comes out, we're not going to be very happy, but we're doing pretty good, so we're happy right now.
Mazda, Porsche, and obviously Honda running up front in ST, and watching them down the long back straightaway, seems like the draft actually comes into play here.
It does. The MX-5, you wouldn't think this being a higher speed track it would be good, but their gears here are very good. So they actually lose a bit of time there, but they're the fastest car everywhere. Right now, McAleer's running, I think, a second faster than the field. So, yeah, we run okay down that back straightaway, but it's really the tight, twisty bits that we need a little bit more help on. And I see that Kyle just lost second to Jeff Mosing, who are the points leaders, and they're obviously favored to win today. So he's doing a really great job, and I can't say enough about him in Compass 360 this year.
Still waiting for this rain and hoping that it gets here, Bob.
Well, trust me, it's coming.
Well, from here, if you look toward the city, we can see the highway over there, which is probably a quarter mile away. And if you look at that truck going by, the rooster tails are quite huge. So it's plenty wet a quarter mile from here.
You talked about anyone taking the gamble, Dorsey, on strategy. Well, actually, the Salins team who lead the ST Championship have played that strategy. They've actually made 2 pit stops there today. Under an earlier caution, they did a quick top-up on fuel. And I think as soon as they hit that 45-minute mark, they just did another second pit stop. We've got Wayne Nonamaker, who's leading the championship charge for them behind the wheel. So they've done their driver change. And we'll have to see. They've stayed on the lead lap of the ST cars, most importantly. As I said, it's a long lap here, and it can buy you a lot of time to play this strategy out.
Wonder if they did tires while they were there, too. I mean, we don't know that they did or they didn't, but that would have been a really good gamble if they did that.
The other thing is, if we do go full course caution and then everyone hits pit lane changing tires, the tire change may be the dominant factor there anyway, but they certainly wouldn't need as much fuel to put on board, so that should save them some time on pit lane as well.
On board with Andrew Davis running in third, 2 places back is his rival for the championship, Trent Hinman, in the number 46 Fall Line BMW. Chris Neville.
Yeah, Bob, and Trent Hinman trailing 2 points in the championship, trailing about 9 seconds to the leaders on the racetrack right now. And listening to him on the radio, he is not happy about that BMW. He's telling the team that the car is just way too tight, just understeering through the slow speed and the high speed corners on the racetrack. But as we're saying this, the rain is starting to come down, guys. And Dorsey, Calvin, you guys know the rain is a great equalizer when your car isn't working well in the dry.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. But looking at Trent Hinman's time early in this race, he had about a second off the pace of the leaders, but he's found some magic somewhere because right now he's running lap times very close to the leader's pace, only 1/10 off best time to best time.
Now, it's not out of the realm of possibility, this track being 3.4 something miles long, that it might rain on one part of the track and not on the other, like we often see in Belgium at Spa-Francorchamps. We'll see. Welcome back to Circuit of the Americas. There's been no position changes among the Continental Tire SportsCar Challenge competitors in Grand Sport and Street Tuner. But here at the Lone Star Le Mans, the weather is definitely changing. As we went to break, I talked about how it might rain on part of the track and not another. That's exactly what's happening. On board, the number 158 of Billy Johnson. See a little bit of rain splattering. Let's see what it does the rest of the lap.
Billy Johnson's car looks really hooked up, so whatever they're doing with that shock package is certainly working, Dorsey. Have really got a nice compliant car. You want to be able to run these curves just a little bit through the S's. The Camaro seems to eat them up a little bit more than this Mustang, but even so, Billy right now has got great grip until he sees this on the windshield.
Yep, getting down toward the back part of the racetrack, it is wet. You'll have to start braking lighter, earlier, stay off of those curbs now because they're going to be wet, and that paint is slippery.
Well, and Dorsey, you look through that windscreen, those are horizontal heating strips. That's a windshield that Multimatic made because they were anticipating it was going to rain today. And those little heating lines there, that's going to keep that windscreen free of fog for Billy Johnson. One other thing, this team thought it was going to rain today, so they went with a little bit softer spring package to try and help that car get off the corners once the rain starts falling.
That's one of the few things you can do, thinking it is going to rain ahead of time, is to soften that spring rate up a little bit, give it a little bit more chassis roll, which pushes that tire down through the water.
You're the guinea pig when you're the leader. Sorry, Bob. I mean, you're kind of searching for the grip for the first time, and the guys behind you can maybe read into any action they see up in front of them in terms of you getting a bit slipping and sliding and adjust accordingly.
Well, it's got to make you think when you're driving down that high-speed backstretch, headed for turn 12, where Tim Bell had that huge accident that brought out our one and thus far only full-course caution thus far, and the rain is splattering on your windshield.
And the key is you don't want to slow down. You need to maintain that tire temperature, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. You slow down to be safe. Well, suddenly you're losing tire temp, you're losing grip, so you got to keep pushing hard and keeping these Continental tires up to their peak performance.
You know, it's a lot of cockpit vigilance. You know, you look way ahead of you, try to read that rain, see if it's wet up there in that corner. You can see the shine.
There's the 04 in the ST class, Adam Eisman.
This is our leader in points.
Yeah. Well, he's in that battle for the race lead as well. Now he's stopped just past turn 1.
Yeah, and unless he can get going, that's probably a place they don't want to see him sitting for very long. So
no, not with wet.
What they'll do here is evaluate whether the car can get going again. They don't want to throw out caution unnecessarily if suddenly the thing fires into life in 5 seconds and can move itself.
Let's see what happened. Right?
Got loose on the entry.
Yeah, he had a problem there in the braking zone. He already had something going on. I don't know if maybe a gear broke or something there. You saw him kind of lose control of the car a little bit, and suddenly he had no power coming off the corner.
Yeah, the BMW got into him by mistake.
Brian, what can you tell us?
I just checked in with Remo Rigidi, and he says engine, it is done. So their day, after such a great run in the early goings, and we talked about how strong they've been in these last 5 events, lost an engine here in Texas.
2 races to go. That really hurts you. There's no way to make up the deficit.
A racetrack like this will certainly stretch the limits of any engine. You got these long straightaways, and sometimes you're stretching gears between corners. We talked about the compatibility of the gear ratios that you have with the corners around a specific race circuit. Sometimes the drivers, rather than doing a quick upshift and back down again, they'll try and keep in that lower gear and peak the motor a little bit. I'm not saying that's the cause of the problem, but it could be.
There's the race leader, Stephen McAleer, in his Mazda.
That was one of those uneventful. Ooh, that little Mazda there just left big skid marks and decided to go to pit lane.
He's diving in here, and this maybe is.
Oh,
whoa! Now we're seeing.
That is rain over there.
Really pouring out there. That's down around turn 8, 9.
Yeah, back of the straightaway, I would think.
Palmbo may have experienced some of this rain and said, you know what, another lap and we're going to be in trouble. So maybe that was a strategy call there to dive in and maybe do a quick tire change.
I think it's exactly what it was. That call probably came from the driver himself saying, we need wets. And he will get such.
See Pepe Palmbo on the wall there in the green T-shirt. What a great man watching his son's progress.
There's Adam Eisman. Finally, I thought he parked on the downhill hoping to bump start it if it was a problem that could be cured that way. But as you heard from Brian, his teammate reports it is the engine, the car is done, and he's pulled it into the gravel trap.
Still a local yellow right now. You see the yellow flags waving, but we are still under green flag racing for the remainder of the racetrack.
You hate blowing an engine, but when it doesn't smoke or do anything dramatic, that's even worse yet. You at least can have some drama. This car has just gotten a routine service with rains.
We're guessing.
No, I saw him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I saw him. treaded tires.
Come the Stevenson boys, championship leaders in.
Driver change. Out comes Andrew Davis. In goes Robin Liddell. Chris.
Well, Bob, and the interesting thing is they're calling for rain tires. So 4 Continental rain tires, it looks like from my angle, going on both Stevenson Mustangs. And I was down at pit end when the call came by with Mike Johnson telling his drivers, pit now, as the other leaders went by the pit entrance.
This is the hardest time to drive, too, because on the one end, it's really wet. You need the rains. The rest of the lap, you don't.
All right, go. You're going to want to be careful.
I think the other thing is, a little bit of delay there on the 6. Like the service was done, and Robin was having a little problem there, either getting everything tightened up or getting in gear or something. But going to be Matt Bell taking over behind the wheel of the number 9. But sometimes when you're leading a championship, you don't want to risk, Dorsey. Do you know what I mean? You suddenly find a skating rink out there and you fly off the racetrack, the championship can be over.
Yeah, you always err to the cautious side when you're in the championship run.
Look at this, perfectly dry right here.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It makes it really difficult because that back part is totally wet and will now stay. So as you brought up, Bob, the humidity here this weekend, that track doesn't dry quickly.
Look how wet it is right there. Wow. Andrew Davis just got out of the number 6. Chris is with him.
He did, Bob, and I thought it was rain tires going on the car. I was pretty far back, but Andrew, you just told me you guys went with dries. How hard was that call?
Well, you know, the issue is that it's very wet through the S's and in the middle of the back straight, which doesn't make a difference. But I've been watching that cell come through for the last hour, and it looks like once that's gone, it's going to be dry. I think it'd have been a bigger risk to go on wets.
So with part of the racetrack being wet out there, what'd you tell your teammate?
Well, he's got to be tiptoe through the S's. You're not going to gain ground. You're only going to fly off. That's your only option. And right now, we just have to be mistake-free. That's the goal here.
All right, good luck, guys.
Robin does a little bit of rallying in his spare time, so he'll need to use those skills here.
He's right in his element. Yep. Making some adjustments to suit the Camaro to his taste. Robin Liddell is on his way. There's a look at the top 3 in both Grand Sport and Street Tuner. We'll be back to Austin, Texas. Welcome back to Circuit of the Americas and the Lone Star Le Mans, round 11 of the Continental Tire SportsCar Challenge for 2014 here on Fox Sports. With Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader, Chris Neville, and Brian Till, I'm Bob Varsha. There is the number 15 Boss 302 Mustang of Scott Maxwell. He is our Dodge Viper SRT halfway leader here in this 2.5-hour race, but we do anticipate he will pit shortly. That will shuffle the running up front. As you see from water on the lens, rain continues to fall, although it has not increased in its intensity. And so that tire decision that Andrew Davis described earlier between wet and dry may work out for the number 16.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, staying on the slicks was the wise move in retrospect. It's really only cost them about 5 or 6 seconds a lap, so that's really not a big change. It's just one sector of the racetrack that's being affected by the wet
Really
conditions.
wet here, guys. Really wet here.
There we go. 15. Go to reserve. Stretching around 2 very different strategies between the 158 and the number 15 for Multimatic, and maybe they've pushed it too far on the 15.
Oh, he's out.
Boy.
He is out.
I was just about to say I like their strategy of splitting them, but they've pushed it a little bit too far on Maxwell.
Looks like it picked up a little fuel there.
Doesn't have too far to go.
Chris Neville had said they only needed about 5 or 6 laps of caution to make it a one-stop race. So that's probably why they're trying to push it as far as they could.
Here comes the 14.
There you got a little shot right there.
Get some revs and coast. Left-hander at 15.
And it was almost to a stop.
Yeah.
He got a little bit more fuel.
Probably cost him 10, 15 seconds right here. We're looking at Michael Marcel, who's running in the 2nd spot. He'll assume the lead when the 15 car hits pit lane, unless Michael comes with him. Good strategy by the Turner boys again, getting the 97. This is their 299th professional race start. They're going to hit 300 here tomorrow in the Tudor race for Turner Motorsports. Quite an accomplishment.
Come on, baby.
Just about there.
See Michael, he led the VIR for a while.
ST leader is in to Brian Till.
Jeff Mosing brings the 56 in. Eric Foss will take over. This car has run flawless. It's like I said early on, they're really learning about the setup on this Cayman, and it is working well. And for Jeff Mosing, if he were able to be winner here at COTA in his home state, That would be huge. The other thing that would be huge, that means they would finish in front of the 42. They'd take back over the points lead in ST. They still got a long way to go.
Let me correct myself. Actually, Stephen McAleer in the Mazda MX-5 remains the leader, but he is so far ahead of second place that I mistook Murillo as the leader.
Yeah, certainly, like Brian said, it really almost becomes like match play. You're looking at your opponent in the championship versus whether you can win the race. Obviously, winning the race scores the most points. That's the best way to go. But right now, with 2 rounds left in this championship, it's very much looking over your shoulder and seeing where your main competitor is. So Maxwell here hits pit lane. It's probably cost him, what do you reckon, Dorsey, 15 seconds or so by having to play around there, hitting reserve and getting back to pit lane?
Good news is he made it back. I mean, that's cut it too close. You can see full tank of fuel, 4 tires.
As Maxwell heads on his way, let's take a look at some of the pit stops we missed during the commercial break.
As we said, Multimatic split their strategies. This is Billy Johnson, who's led from the pole position here today. A brilliant stint. Opened up to about 16-second lead at one point. Good clean pit stop for the boys. 4 tires, as you can see, 4 Continental tires going on. Ian James now behind the wheel. This is John Edwards. Really good clean pit stop here. And John has been laying down some very fast lap times. He's caught up the pack a little bit here. Then the 09, Papadopoulos, he gets turned around.
Absolutely.
A little clip on the quarter panel by the 68 there.
See that so often up there at turn 1. And you're on board with Edwards as he avoids the spinning Aston Martin. Meanwhile, 01 Camaro getting by the 158, and that puts Lawson Aschenbach up into second.
Yeah, and that wasn't for the lead, obviously, but it was basically for the lead of the guys who had pitted and were on the same strategy, so that was quite a significant move there by Lawson.
Back to real time now. The number 5 is in, Stephen McAleer. This is the class-leading street tuner machine.
This looks all fairly routine.
These ST cars go a lot further on fuel, so this should be their last pit stop of the day for fuel, unless we see some terrible weather conditions. They have to put wet tires on or something, or some kind of mechanical, but good clean race for these guys, going for 2 in a row here at COTA.
Trying to pack every drop of fuel into the car, and away he goes to Brian Till.
Jeff Mosing just climbed out of the 56. We were talking about the conditions out there. What kind of car does Eric have? But maybe more importantly, what kind of racetrack does he have to run on?
He's got a great car, thanks to Ken Murillo, of course. And the racetrack's really funny right now. We don't have steady rain anywhere. It's just spotty. And so you'll go into one corner and everything's good and your confidence goes up, and then you hit the next corner and the car's ready to kill you. So I let them know where we've got rain in different corners. Of course, we're keeping an eye on it the whole time. But Foss will get in there and do the job right. He was fine in the rain. It's just a little bit tricky with the conditions because it's dry in some spots and wet in others.
A win here at COTA, what would that mean to you here in your home state?
You know, a win anywhere would be great, but I do have some friends and family here back from my old hometown of Lafayette, Louisiana. So it would be great if we were up there. I get to spray the champagne on somebody I know, but thanks to the fans, thanks to Connie, thanks to Porsche, and thanks to y'all for covering.
A great run so far. We'll have to see how it ends up, Chris.
Well, Brian, Billy Johnson, most likely his car will take the lead again once these pit cycles have gone all the way through. But Billy, we've got areas of this racetrack where there's water being thrown up by the cars, other areas that are dry. How tough is that?
Man, that first stint was crazy. This track's so long that it literally was dry on the front straightaway, dry in the hairpin at the far end of the track, but literally the middle of the track was pouring rain through the S's and on the back straightaway. What rain where it was, you needed rain tires, but we just had to deal with it, and it was definitely exciting. But these Multimatic guys have been doing an awesome job. It's been a real tough season for us, but they never skipped a beat, gave us a great car, and we're able to lead the first part of the race, and Ian's doing a great job out there. But just want to give a little shout out to my grandmother who's really sick, and just want to say I love you and hope you're doing okay.
Yeah, we hope Grandma's doing well. And guys, changing conditions once again. We have not had a wet front straightaway, but right now it's raining hard enough that a couple more minutes, this front stretch might be wet.
Oh, the plot thickens up and down. Thanks, Chris. You're watching the battle for the lead. Lawson Aschenbach in the 01 Camaro over Ian James in the number 158 Mustang. And just behind that, Robin Liddell in the 6 and John Edwards in the 46 further back, battling for a championship. Back at a thoroughly damp circuit of the Americas, I'm Bob Barsha with Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader, Chris Neville, and Brian Till. This is the Lone Star Le Mans, Route 11 of the IMSA Continental Tire SportsCar Challenge for 2014. You ride with John Edwards, whose teammate, Trent Hinman, is in the running for the championship lead. Edwards, taking over from Hinman, was 4th when we went to break. He now leads due to pit stops by his rivals. And now the strategies are beginning to play out over the final 3/4 of an hour of this race. Let's get you up to speed on how we got to where we are right now. Start of the race in bright sunshine with clouds threatening. Brad Jager takes a tap from behind and has a heavy impact with the trackside fence.
Yeah, Anthony Mantella out, and then this was the biggest moment of this race. Tim Bell losing the brakes down into the turn 12 brake zone, Dorsey. What an impact.
Boy, lucky he escaped unharmed from this huge wreck.
Hard to believe he walked away, but there's the evidence. Very, very lucky escape. Lots of action going on.
Riddle turns around Scott Maxwell up in that infamous brake zone for turn 1. And then Papadopoulos, he gets attacked here too. People just sticking their nose in places they shouldn't be.
Battle for the lead between the Camaro and Mustang. That was Eric Curran at the time. Lawson Aschenbach now behind the wheel. And as the rain began to fall, the jockeying for position continued.
Ian James looking really strong behind the wheel of the 158, and here we see a little bit of discussion.
Well, it's Wayne Nonemaker running for a championship going, why are you beating me up? I'm trying to finish this race clean. And then pit stops occurred when this rain got heavier.
158, Ian James in. Oh, he and Lawson Aschenbach came in together, left in the same order. They have now reversed position.
This was the leader in ST for many laps here. Number 33, the Skull Candy Nissan, doing a great job here today. They finally make a pit stop for fuel. Great run for those guys.
They put on rain tires too, so they're one of the few out there with rains.
There's our Continental Tire race recap. Edwards and Eversley lead their respective classes. Let's check out the lead in the ST division. Ryan Eversley.
Kozarov making that pit stop. He's been in the car since lap 3. Laura Tolman started the race for the Skull Candy team, and Ryan Eversley said this car is awesome in the wet.
Yeah,
he's
they
proven
wanted it. They wanted the rain, and they got it. And look what's happened. He's brought it right to the front, like he said he would do.
Looks like the rain has let up. Well, as I look out the window, still falling fairly heavily on the front stretch. And elsewhere on this 3.4+ mile Circuit of the Americas racetrack, nice and dry. We'll be right back. Back at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, and as you can see, the rain is falling heavier once again. You ride on the number 46 BMW, being handled by John Edwards. He is now in 5th position, and we'll show you why in what could be a critical decision by the Fall Line team. This is our Corvette race analysis, a decision to come in and put wet, treaded tires on the car.
Well, it's a big call. It's a massive call, depending on what happens here for the last few minutes of this race. They needed fuel, certainly. They rolled the dice a little bit by waiting about 4 laps longer than their main competition here, and then they made the decision. And Dorsey, this is really something that the team will be looking at in terms of lap time. There's a crossover point when the wets are going to work. John Edwards will be reading the racetrack, and now we're going to have to see how this plays out. This has championship implications.
Everybody's watching the lap times get slower and slower. You get to a point that you've already preset in your mind, and then that's when you pull the plug and you go ahead and put those reins on.
Let's get more with Chris Neville in pit lane.
Well, it was Michael Harvey, the team manager here at Fall Line, that made that decision. And Michael, you were one of the championship contenders that went to wet weather tires. What went into that process of making that decision?
Well, obviously the rain's coming. We know that the rain, when it stops, it takes a long time to dry. So we're out here to win. We're fighting for a championship. We've got to take some risks. So we sent one car out on wets, made sure that was the right call, sent the other car out on wets. So we got 40 minutes to run and see what happens.
Yeah, Michael's saying they sent one car out on wets. They brought the 48 car in a couple laps early, and it was Shelby Blackstock who said, yeah, guys, I think we made the right decision. And Dorsey, I think you talked about that threshold in time. This team was saying it was about 2 minutes and 35 seconds. And once they saw that, that's when they started thinking about wets.
Well, we've been here all weekend, and it's been raining all weekend. And one thing, Bob, you and I were talking about before, this track does not dry quickly, not with 100% humidity out in the air like it is. There's not any breeze here in Texas, not currently anyway. This track doesn't dry fast.
Saw John Edwards there. He is right up on the wheel. He knows what's on the line here today in terms of getting his teammate Trent Hinman the championship lead back as we head to Atlanta in a couple of weeks.
He is the fastest car on track right now, certainly in the top 10. His last lap, a 2:41, as much as 2 full seconds quicker than the cars around him. Remember, he's racing for his teammate, Trent Hinman. The two drivers were split in the championship when John Edwards did not make the minimum required drive time to score points. That's 45 minutes. He missed it by just 6 seconds 6 races ago at Kansas Speedway. So right now, John is trying to get it done for Hinman. And although they'd like to win the race, there's the guy he's racing right now, the number 6 of Robin Liddell, who runs second to race leader Tom Kimber-Smith.
And he can see him. He's just a couple of corners ahead. Here we're looking at the final corner, corner 20. And right behind him is John Edwards coming up fast. So I think the call is the right one, unless it dries out dramatically in the last 20 minutes or so, Dorsey. Right now he is a lot faster on these full rain tires.
Well, rain tires, just like dry tires, need to get up to temperature before they get their maximum grip. So it would have taken him a little time to get that speed. Right now he's the quickest on the track. It was raining quite hard a few minutes ago, but isn't it like we've been here all weekend? Now it's just completely not raining at all.
I'm looking out the window to the west, and it's definitely lighter out there. I can even see patches of blue sky. But again, will the track dry out in the final 33, 34 minutes of this race? Meanwhile, here's our leader in the ST category, Ryan Eversley in the Honda, number 75. Let's go to Brian Till.
Well, Carl Thompson calls the shots here at Compass 360. And Carl, the guys were just talking about rain tires in Grand Sport, and some of the guys there have gone to rains. But you and I were talking, you just don't feel like you've got the cushion or maybe even the conditions to make that call.
It's like we got a little drone and it's flying over the circuit, dropping rain in all sorts of different spots, but never consistently. So the reality is, one section of the track's kind of dryish, another section's really, really wet. And if we put rain tires on, we're just going to chew off the fronts on the Civics. So it's up to the guys behind the wheel. It's treacherous, there's no question. On the other hand, right behind us, it looks like it's going to get sunny, so it could start to dry out. The guys just got to do their job today.
You just don't have the gap between you and the 56 of Eric Foss to even make that call, do you? That'd be a huge gamble.
I think not only do we not have the gap, but I don't think at the moment that the rain tires are going to be that much faster, because on the dry sections, they're not going to be quick enough. So not only will we lose all that time, I don't think we're going to be able to gain it up. We've only got, 30 minutes left, so we're all gambling.
We're all gambling, but it's easy to gamble from pit lane. If you're behind the wheel, it's another story altogether, guys.
Now, these front-wheel drive cars are far superior to rear-wheel drive in the rain in that they can accelerate off the corner and not spin the tires quite as badly. They launch better, in other words, and their cornering is balanced with the set of tires that they have on there. When they go to range, the car does start to skittish around a little bit. You have to really adjust to it. I think in his car, it's probably the right call. I think he's done the right thing.
Seeing Eric Foss, who will assume the lead of the championship. He holds down this second place position right now. Wayne Nonemaker seems to be struggling a bit here today in the lower end of the top 10, currently running in the 9th spot, and doesn't seem to have the pace of the leaders here, which is a little bit surprising, running similar equipment. They've been so consistent all season long. I did see something flapping on the Salem's machine a little bit earlier underneath the car, so maybe he's had an off and damaged the car a little bit, but championships on the line. These are critical last 30 minutes of this motor race.
Wow. Doesn't get much better than this on this fantastic track with a big field of evenly matched cars, and then Mother Nature kicks in.
Just 1 point between the two cars we've been talking about. I also saw the flapping thing underneath the Nonemaker car. I think it's gone. I don't know what it was. Maybe he ran over a cone or something, and it got stuck there. It didn't seem to hurt, but they haven't been on song all weekend. They haven't been at the front of the grid, which we're used to seeing them be.
Chad McCumbee now sitting in the 3rd spot. Stephen Meckler had the lead of this class for a long time in the race. Had a great run here last year with the win. Chris, what's he thinking about chances of a repeat?
Well, they definitely would like to repeat, but Stephen, early on you were leading this race. Transmission issues for you that we know you were dealing with. Are you still having that stuff?
Yeah, it was the first caution of the race. We were driving around and it popped out of gear in 3rd gear. But we had questions about stopping, about maybe fixing the transmission. But I think we proved right to stay out, and right now our ModSpace Mazda's sitting out front, and hopefully we're in a podium position right now.
We got an interesting class of cars, some front-wheel drive, some rear-wheel drive. How does that change things in ST with this wet track?
Yeah, to be honest, around here, I really think it's more driver talent. The front-wheel drive cars have benefits somewhere. The Mazdas have benefits, and I think we've got a good car that we should be on the podium today again. So
this team has a lot of speed. Obviously, still dealing with the transmission. That when the engine isn't loaded, when the drivetrain isn't loaded, that car's popping out of gear.
Well, I don't know if that contributed to the slide that Chad McCumbee just performed out there. That was wicked.
Had a big old power slide, four-wheel drift going, and just stuck with it. Looked really nice, controlled well.
Look up ahead.
Yep.
Edwards has got around Ian James for the third position, and now the next man in his sights is the guy they're battling for the championship, Rob Liddell, in the number 6 car that he shares with Andrew Davis. Different types of tires on these race cars.
And there he is, looming in the rearview mirrors of Robin Liddell. Championship implications. We'll keep an eye on it and be back in just a moment with more from the Circuit of the Americas. Ride 'em, cowboy. Back at Circuit of the Americas, where we've had another twist in our championship tale in the Grand Sport Division. There's Robin Liddell, who a moment ago was running in second place, just ahead of John Edwards, co-driver for Liddell's championship rival, Trent Hinman. Moments ago, Edwards got the drop on the Camaro, passed Liddell. Liddell tried to fight back. Edwards opted for the wet part of the track. Remember, he's on the treaded wet weather rubber. Not so Robin Liddell in the Stevenson Camaro.
Look at this. Robin doesn't want to give it up, but that traction, Dorsey, is going to be the dominant factor here in these type of conditions.
Well, when you get passed on the outside like that in a high-speed sweeper, well, that handwriting's on the wall. Superior grip, no doubt.
Look how much he stretched it out here in just one lap. So the big question now is Edwards up to second. Tom Kimber-Smith for the Turner Motorsport team leads this race, but will he be able to make it on fuel? That's the big question right now. Let's find out with Brian.
Here with Will Turner trying to win in his 299th start. Now you and Don Salama have a little argument as is there enough fuel? The other question is, does he have enough tire? Because Edwards is on rain tires, I think, and he's coming.
Yeah, first thing is a shout out to Kevin Holmes, who usually crew chiefs his car, that broke his neck in a motorcycle accident. He's at home recuperating. Kevin, we wish you were here, but I'm sure you're watching this on TV. Anyway, yeah, Don and I were just discussing or just arguing. He says he has a thimble worth of fuel. My calculation says he's not going to have enough fuel. So it's going to be close. But right now, more importantly, Edwards is coming with those rain tires. Don did a great strategy call on a one-stopper for this race, which put us to the front, but also it didn't offer us the opportunity to put rains on. So now we may not have tires, but if you look up there, there's a little bright spot in the clouds, and all we want is a little sun to come on down. We'll be all right.
They're looking for a little sunshine and a win. The problem is if the sun comes and the lap times increase, you burn more fuel.
Well, that's right, Brian. And the key is when you talk about strategy, having the technology to really estimate. You're getting a big fuel save in wet conditions. You're rolling out of the power earlier, going to the brake pedal earlier. That saves fuel. Sitting on the pit box, they don't always have all of those calculations at hand. So sometimes they're just going to run it and wait for that light to come on or for the engine to cough and just stretch it as far as they can.
That's a good point, Calvin. You kind of drive until the tires start to spin, then you upshift. It's basically a short shift to a taller gear. What's it do? It gains you fuel mileage. How much? Nobody really knows that because they don't have any way of monitoring. It's a total guess.
Starting to see very dark shadows around the car. That means the sun is starting to poke through just that little bit. Back down to the pit lane now, and Chris Neville.
Well, guys, just kind of talking about this fuel a little bit more, checking in with some of these teams. They said, when you go to a lot of different racetracks and you start building that notebook, there's going to be days that you're out there running in the wet, days that you're out there running in the dry, which really give you a good idea of your fuel consumption. The problem is this is only our second time at Circuit of the Americas, and they've never run here in the wet before. So some of these teams still trying to figure out what that fuel consumption is. And there is some information that the drivers can see in the car, how much they're using, but they need to constantly be relaying that information back to the teams for the teams to figure out how far they can go.
Yeah, there's going to be some twists and turns here in the last 23 minutes of this race because Edwards is coming, and he is coming fast. He's got about 4-second advantage per lap over Rob Liddell, who currently sits in the third position. But if it dries out, Liddell is going to turn the tables in a hurry.
Pick up the ST battle. Not much of a battle right now. Ryan Eversley running 12th overall, first in ST. His next rival, Eric Foss, is 2 cars back.
Once again, though, if it starts to dry out, he'll lose his advantage with that front-wheel drive. He'll start to slide backwards on his time per lap, and that'll get closer as well.
I think the key for Eric Foss, who sits in the second spot, knowing that Nonamaker's in trouble here today, how aggressive will he be?
Yeah.
Eversley's just going for wins right now. Foss has got to think about the big picture of the championship.
Getting back to the Turner pit stop, we joke about Don Salama and Will Turner having different fuel crunch numbers and arguing over it, but I guess that's probably a pretty good plan to have more than one brain working those numbers. So
and they're both really good brains.
You can check each other.
Those two guys have checked each other and worked together for so long.
Yeah.
Don Salama doesn't make many mistakes up there. He's a great driver in his own right.
299 starts is a lot of experience. I think Don's been on the box or driving for the majority of those.
And those are just the starts with BMW. That Turner organization really knows what they're doing.
Eric Foss there, it's, you know, the Porsche doing a good job in the wet too, no doubt about it.
Talk about gambling. These guys made a huge decision mid-season to switch to that Porsche with the championship on the line. They just looked at the way the cards were stacking up and that the Cayman had really, you know, come out of the shadows a little bit and started to win races and really run at the front. They said, we need to make a change if we're going to be a threat for this championship, and it's proven to be the right one.
Yeah, those Caymans, we all talked about that. We all said early, that might be a good idea. And then all of a sudden they started blooming, and it's shown to be a very good car.
Chad McCumbee, 3rd in Street Tuner, or ST.
He's playing car control clinic right now. He's having some fun. See that snap back?
The other big factor I think about, if you were on any, what I'd call another racetrack that we run on the schedule and running in these conditions with guys on slick tires, we would have had more cautions here today. There's so much runoff room here and so much racetrack, you can literally lose control of the car and you've controlled it again by the time you reach the edge of the road, do you know what I mean? And then you've got the runoff area as well. I think this strategy calls that the guys are making is really based on, we probably are not going to see a caution.
It's amazing. We've had one caution. That was due to a mechanical failure.
Right.
We haven't really had a caution. It's been horrible conditions.
The credit to all the drivers and teams out there. You saw the 42 of Wayne Nonamaker running in 8th in the ST class. He will certainly give up the lead in the championship with just one race remaining after today here at Circuit of the Americas. Stand by. Welcome back in Texas, where the battle for the victory in the Grand Sport class of the Continental Tire SportsCar Challenge is an all BMW affair. There is Tom Kimber-Smith in the Turner Motorsports BMW. Behind him, John Edwards, now about 9 seconds back, trying to close up and win this race and give his teammate Trent Hinman a big boost in the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, John had been cutting into that lead by about 3 to 4 seconds a lap on the last lap. It was only a 2-second delta. See what happens right here.
Looking at John right now. Look at he's looking, finding water. He's driving through puddles, saving those tires.
Just under 2 seconds, Dorsey. So the delta is actually reducing in terms of the difference between a slick shod race car and the wet weather car driven by John Edwards right now.
I'm wondering if it's not because of that line he's taking. See what he's doing. He's tracking out into the water intentionally. Slows him up a little bit, but saves the tires.
There's the championship as they run right now. Trent Hinman, thanks to the efforts of John Edwards and his own, of course, would pull into a tie with Robin Liddell and Andrew Davis. Liddell runs next in line, 3rd in GS.
With one race to go. It's like the whole year is for nothing.
And that's why the big news is if Edwards can get by Kimber-Smith for the win, that's 3 more points. That's huge, because that could mean maybe, depending on positions at the final race, they can maybe finish behind the 6th car and still clinch the championship.
It's all going down to the final race at Road Atlanta. Now let's hear from Chris Neville.
Well, guys, listening to John Edwards and the team on the radio, I think right now what they're concerned about is this track potentially drying off, because he was 3 to 4 seconds a lap quicker, now a little bit less than 2 seconds a lap, and that's mainly because Edwards is trying to take it easy on the tires. He's worried that if he pushes too hard and this track dries out more, that could put Robin Liddell in a position to get back in front of him. So he's trying to make sure he saves those Continental wet weather tires in case this track dries out more.
And once again, the team is going to have to make a decision. We got 15 minutes left in the race. When do you cut him loose and let him burn him down? I mean, at some point, you're going to have to say, okay, you're minus X amount of time, go get him.
Yeah. Well, not only is John Edwards closing up incrementally on Tom Kimber-Smith for the lead, he's also pulling away from Robin Liddell. That gap is now about 14 seconds.
Well, John can see him. There's nobody between him. Watch this. Look, right in front of him, there's Tom Kimber-Smith. So that You smell blood then. Once you can see the guy, there's nobody stopping me now.
Kimber Smith's doing a really nice job. When you look at his lap times compared to other guys on similar slick Continental tires, he's got some really great pace here right now. He's obviously thinking about fuel a little bit as well. So even if the tires aren't the right way for John Edwards, there's still a fuel factor to consider here in terms of whether this Turner Motorsports BMW can make it to the flag. Big manufacturer's battle on hand as well. Right now, BMW have a 2-point advantage over Chevrolet. That will stretch if they maintain these positions going into the final round as well.
I love that. Go fast, fast, fast. He's catching it, but save fuel.
Right. Here they go, swinging onto the start-finish straightaway. We'll check the gap. You can see.
Look at Edwards swinging across the racetrack, looking for that wet.
Look behind them. You're going to find the next car in frame is going to be the third-place car.
The gap down to 4.36 seconds, first to second. And here comes the third-place Camaro.
Second car back.
Edwards 3 seconds faster on that lap than the leader.
Dell crosses the timing stripe. He is now 19 seconds behind second place. We are back at Circuit of the Americas. You ride with the second place BMW of John Edwards. Just ahead, that bright yellow Turner Motorsports Bimmer is race leader Tom Kimber Smith, and the gap is coming down quickly.
Kimber Smith running on fumes, at least we see it that way. Not even sure he'll make it to the finish line or not, and he's got heat from behind now.
Yeah, Edwards is coming, and he's chopping in that lead dramatically there. Nearly 3 seconds on that last lap, so he has the pace, he has the grip. He's just got to be calm, cool, and collected here and taking the lead.
Drying up on the front straightaway, but with 11 minutes left, he's still in very good shape, I think.
To Brian Till.
Just checked in with Jeff Mosing, who is sitting on the pit box listening to, are you ready? 70s roller skating music. So he's he's 70s roller skating music. He's sitting back. He said, look, we're exactly where we need to be. We're not going to catch the leader. We know that, and we've got the margin back to Wayne Nonemaker that we need. We're content. The car is good. We'll take a second place today if we can get to the checkered flag, and we'll, more importantly, take the championship lead.
I don't think I have that genre in my tunes.
Roller skating music. Where did he get your iPod, Brian?
Still got a needle.
Mine would be country music, not roller skating.
Country roller skating.
His has still got a needle involved.
Here's where the wet tires really have an advantage through these long duration corners. And watch this, Edwards looks to the outside, and he's got it.
Yeah, they both knew exactly where they were and what was going to happen. When a guy, like I said before, when a guy can make an outside pass on you in the wet rain, you know, it's not much you can do.
And Tom Kimber Smith is pretty savvy too. He realizes, yeah, I'd love to win this race, but he drives for a team that has run BMWs for many years. They don't want to see them get into too much aggravation here with Edwards, who has Hinman, who's on the verge of a championship.
Yeah, they probably have put him in fuel conservation mode full time now too, knowing the inevitable was about to happen. Now it's just a matter of, can we get it to the finish line?
And Ian James is only 2.2 seconds behind Robin Liddell,
That's
who made the
significant.
challenge for third.
Yeah, he would want that podium finish, and that would be bump Robin Liddell down another couple of points. So that is significant in the big picture of the championship as well.
James is in a Ford Mustang. Liddell's in his Chevy
Kimber
Camaro.
Smith just stood on the gas right there. He just took that position back from the car that was in front of him.
I think the track's a little bit drier here, so the car is not affected as much in terms of the lack of grip, but we're going to have to hang on here. Anything can happen.
Or they just told him to go. You know, let's go for broke.
Less than 10 minutes to go. On board with the Liddell.
That's the next problem in line right there.
Is he at full speed?
Yeah, I think he's tippy-toeing.
Okay.
Watch right behind him, though. Ian James there is just about 5 or 6 car lengths behind, and Ian's done a tremendous job and been in the thick of the action all day long. Got passed early on by Lawson Oschenbach, who's now drifted back a little bit. Oschenbach won another World Challenge Championship last weekend in Miller, so he just continues a remarkable streak of winning championships in these types of races cars. See the car just drifting through there, Dorsey.
Yeah, these conditions are fun to drive in to an extent. I mean, it's fun to, once you've got the feel of the car and the balance you want, you can just have those four-wheel drifts and really enjoy your time out there.
looking for the gap from Robin Liddell to Ian James for third place. Edwards has opened a 1.6 second gap over Tom Kimber-Smith for the race lead.
If you can't win, you can still show off a little bit. It's always good.
This team has had quite the season. 3 wins on the year, 5 podiums. This would be their 6th if Robin can hang on here today. And it's all going to go down to the wire. Atlanta in just 2 weeks' time.
Pretty dry line there, Cal, as you saw him starting down through the S's. Being cognizant to stay out of the wet.
Kimber-Smith hanging on. Some of that may be John trying to conserve those tires. I think if I was John Edwards right now, I'd try and stretch this lead as much as I can.
Bingo. Meanwhile, back in the ST class, Ryan Eversley and Eric Voss are basically nose to tail, and Voss the quicker on that last lap. He's got a ways to go.
Voss, of course, 1 point behind in the championship. Will take the lead if he stays like he is right now, because the man in front, Wayne Nonemaker, is back a ways, not having his best weekend.
The factor could be here, Bob, in terms of the timeline and how John Edwards crosses the line, whether he's going to have 3 or 4 more laps to go.
There's your ST leader. 75 of Ryan Eversley.
He was just licking his chops, wasn't he, during that interview, just saying, boy, this car's so good. Front wheel drive. He had the confidence in it, and it's shown. Gimbel did a great job in the early going as well.
Voss is about 12 seconds back, so not much of a challenge right now for Ryan Eversley for the race win here in Texas. Final break. We'll be back to take you to the checkered flag. Welcome back to Circuit of the Americas. You ride with John Edwards and his fall line BMW in position by 3.5 seconds to win with 1 race remaining in the 2014 Continental Tire SportsCar Challenge season. And that will put his teammate Trent Hinman into the lead of the Drivers' Championship by right now unofficially 5 points over Robin Liddell and Andrew Davis, the teammates in the Stevenson Motorsports Chevy Camaro Z28R, currently running 4th and off the podium.
John Edwards just got the hammer down and went a second quicker. That's the good news. The bad news is that means the track is drying out. And that means that it could come back towards Tom Kimber-Smith, who currently sits 3.6 seconds behind. This is going to go down to the wire unless we see a little bit more rain.
Oh, we got fuel problems?
Yeah, I think we do. I think that was a wiggle intentional for fuel.
And let me correct myself. Edwards will give Trent Hinman a 7-point lead in the championship since Liddell has fallen back to 4th behind Ian James.
It's a big day for this 4-line team if they can hang on.
Voss would also have a 10-point lead where he was at a 1-point deficit. That means he would have made up 19 points in the last 2 races.
In the ST category, because his rival, Wayne Nonemaker, the championship leader coming in, runs 10th in the ST class. Right now, Tom Kimber-Smith needs to get that bright blue and yellow Turner Motorsports BMW to the finish. And he probably has no bigger fan boosting him right now than Trent Hinman, who wants those points taken away from Liddell and Edwards.
Yeah, he doesn't need Kimber-Smith to hit pit lane, because that gives 2 points back to Robin Liddell in this championship chase. You have to tell whether he was actually wiggling the car around looking for fuel, or whether he's just having a bit of a moment where he's trying to get the power down and looking for traction.
That's what exactly I was about to say, was we're not sure that he wiggled because of fuel.
What's up with the 97, Brian?
Oh, I just checked in with the married couple on the stand, Don Salama and Will Turner, and Don said, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. I said, but he just bobbled. And Will looked at me and said, no, we're going to be out of fuel. And they just looked at each other and kind of glared. They're great friends, but they still disagree. We're not quite sure exactly what happened to the 97, but he's still out. Turn laps.
It's a great run for this team. I mean, they led at VIR, they've led here today, so it's really been a bit of a rebound. At a quiet start to the season. Michael Marcel returns to the Turner Motorsports team. He likes running with Tom Kimber-Smith, and they've finally found their feet a little bit in terms of the performance of the race car and getting the setup underneath them, and it's starting to show in the results. So they've got nothing to lose. They're not in the championship hunt. They're just going to go out and try and get the best position they can, so why not gamble a little bit?
What a race this has been in the conditions. It could be the 2nd victory of the year for the pairing of John Edwards and Trent Hinman And it couldn't have come at a better time.
Could get the white flag this time, too.
What a season they had. They got off to such a strong start, finishing on the podium. First 3 races, winning at Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. And then, just as they seemed to be totally under control, all went away from them. Little mechanical gremlins, the drive time issue. And suddenly, this championship got really, really tight, and they lost the lead of this championship for the first time for Hinman since Sebring at the last round of VIR. And what a way to rebound here today.
You see a tower, some call it the Circuit of the Americas Dragon, some call it the Mullet. It's another of the symbols of this track and sits above a beautiful amphitheater area. Austin, Texas bills itself as the live music capital of the world. They have a year of great concerts here at this amazing facility. But right now it's all about motorsports. We expect a white flag for John Edwards. Just a couple more corners.
I always thought it was a ski jump ramp, but there's no chance of snow around here. I wouldn't think so.
Certainly not this weekend.
This is going to be big for BMW as well, because the first GM right now sits back in the 4th spot, so it's going to be a big bump in the points for them heading into 1 round to go.
Oh, look, you looked really slow off that corner.
Yeah, he did.
I don't know if that was starvation or if he's coasting around.
What's that driver coaching technique? Think of an eggshell between your foot and the accelerator.
Yeah, and a quart of gas in your rear pocket would help too.
You talk about these drivers, the caliber of the drivers, the finishing drivers typically in this series. I mean, John Edwards is a BMW factory pilot. Tom Kimber-Smith, 3 class wins at the Le Mans 24-hour race. These are some of the best sports car drivers in the world here, duking it out for the win here today.
See, we get a white. We do. White flag.
Yep. John Edwards still trying to find that last bit of moisture on this rapidly drying racetrack. His team appears to have called it perfectly. Kudos to Hinman and Edwards for the way they've driven the car. There's another look at the Dragon. A beautiful vista of central Texas.
And that call for tires was a big one, and they got it right. And that's what it's all about, putting on the line, going for a championship. So kudos to Mike Harvey. And obviously John had some input on that in terms of feeling the racetrack. As he said, we had a guinea pig with Shelby Blackstock. We put him on the wets a little bit earlier. They get feedback from the driver. Also look at the lap times there to see what sort of lap times he could run on the wet weather tires. So they did it all right.
And the timing was perfect. I mean, it just played out just like you would want it to. Final lap, and he's still good.
There's Ryan Eversley. He and teammate Kyle Gimple in position to pick up their second victory of the season as well. One more lap for our ST leader. Consistency is important as speed in winning championships.
Take her home. No pressure behind.
That's got to be music to his ears.
I like that, no pressure behind. That makes me always feel good.
Look at the focus in John Edwards' eyes.
These are tough conditions, and hats off not only to John and his teammate, but all of the drivers here. I mean, I think in these conditions, Dorsey, I mean, the driving has really been spectacular. We haven't seen guys flying off the racetrack, some on tires that really aren't ideal for either the conditions or certain parts of the racetrack. It's been quite phenomenal to see. Oh, that was tight.
That was close.
Woo! It is miraculous when you think about the fact that short of the mechanical error on lap 1, a car that failed apart, we haven't had a caution in what has been mostly a wet, nasty day.
Mark Miller there, really close. Mark Miller won here last year with Stephen McAleer in ST, and that was a bit close for comfort, I thought, the overall leader.
I should say.
Kimber-Smith, half a lap to go. He might make it. Salama might be right again.
He's probably sweating, but it's not because of the high relative humidity.
Will's going to be buying the beer tonight if he gets across the line.
We'll have to find out where they're staying.
Hey, and that makes tomorrow their 300th try.
Yep.
300th race.
And they couldn't start off the weekend on a better note with a victory. Well, excuse me, not a victory, but a podium.
Okay.
Because the victory is going to go to the 46 Trimtex Fall Line BMW. There's Trent Hinman.
He's a happy boy.
Oh, yeah. John Edwards, a great measured drive in mixed conditions to bring it home for their second GS victory.
He's going to be partying tonight. It's his birthday tomorrow as well. He turns the ripe old age of 19.
Yeah, old man now.
Yeah, he'll be drinking some Sprite or something.
Not me.
Oh. Whoops.
Oh, spin on the last lap.
There's Eric Foss. Will take over the lead in the Drivers' Championship in the Street Tuner class. But he will not get the victory. That will go to the Honda up ahead.
He'll be happy with that 10-point lead, though, I guarantee you that.
Yes. Would you rather win the battle or win the war? You'd rather do both. But I'm sure Eric Foss is happy with what he's getting. And notice that dry line forming. Pretty appropriate end, I think, as the checkered flag waves for the Compass 360 Honda of Ryan Eversley and teammate Kyle Gimple. There's a happy crew. Congratulations to the crew. We'll take a break and start to hear from our winners when we return to Texas in a moment. What a day at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Rain, dry, hot, teams making plans, revising those plans. What a race. And the final round is coming your way Sunday, October 12th at 12 noon Eastern on Fox Sports 1. It'll be the finale of the Continental SportsCar Challenge on the Petit Le Mans weekend at Road Atlanta in Georgia. Time to hear from our winners. Let's go down to Chris Neville.
Well, John Edwards, Trent Hinman, they get their second win of the year. And John, you had a wet track, you had a dry track, you had the championship on the line. I mean, you had a lot going on out there.
Yeah, I mean, in a race like this, it's hard to not think about the championship, but you just got to run the race and look at it, each lap, because it was changing each lap. But at the end of the day, when the Camaro came in and then the second Camaro came in, we were questioning whether they were going to throw that yellow for the Subaru on the front straightaway. I probably would have made the call to pit, but my engineer kept me out there and said, let's see what happens. We're right at the transition area. And then the next few laps I was slower, so we went to rains, and we knew from practice that the track took about 45 minutes to dry up, and it was 45 minutes into the race, so I think it was the right call.
Trent, you got the championship lead back. We got about 2 weeks until the final race of the year. Are you going to be able to sleep?
I don't know about that. I don't have the championship lead. He definitely has it too. So just because it says he's in second doesn't mean he's not a part of it by any means. The guy drove like an animal today. I don't know what else to say. I mean, other than just a huge thank you to John and Full Line and BMW and all of our partners, Trimtex, Sirocco and Ozimo, Atlas Acon and DFL. I'm speechless right now. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, guys, we got a really tight championship. We got one to go. Bob?
I think that was a pretty good speech for a guy who was speechless.
Well, a 7-point swing, that was massive. Not only winning the race for Hinman and Edwards, but certainly Davis and Adele finishing off the podium. 5-point spread going to that final race. That is big.
Now let's get back down to Brian Till.
You know what else was big? The job that Kyle Gimple did in the opening stint in the 75. Ryan Eversley, you got the rain that you wanted. Second win of the season, and while the year hasn't gone the way you guys wanted, does this put a little salve on some of the wounds from the DNFs and the exclusion and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I felt like I owed my team from Daytona, so we got that at Watkins Glen, and now I felt like we all deserved a better result than we got at VIR, and we showed it at our track. I think Kyle, I thought, was one of our worst on the schedule, unless it rained. So, like I said before, the Honda Civic in the rain is one of the best cars you'll ever drive. We just beat a Porsche Cayman and a Honda Civic SI. How cool is that? In the rain, which is all about, grip and having a good driver. And the guy that taught me my racing school is the guy that finished right behind me, Eric Foss. So, huge congrats to him, but how about this kid next to me? Killing it, doing a great job. I mean, was right in the top 3 the whole time. Can't say enough thanks to HPD, Compass 360, and obviously the Children's Steamer Foundation for everything they do for us.
Congratulations on the victory, guys.
Congratulations indeed. One race remains. Here's how Street Tuner stands.
Well, the big winner took out here today. Eric Foss takes that lead away from Wayne Nonamaker with a 9-point spread with one of the race going. Can't take out Jeff Mosing. He's still there.
Now let's get back down, this time to Chris Neville.
Well, Tom Kimmer-Smith, Michael Marcel coming second today. The winner did it on wet weather tires. Second place, you guys did it on dry weather tires. But more importantly, Tom, you did it on fumes. How much were you managing the fuel situation with this car the last 15 minutes of the race?
Actually, we were pretty comfortable on fuel. It was actually all down to the tyre choice. And I think if we had another 5-10 minutes, the slicks would have been the more beneficial tyre. But, we made the call early on and we had to stick to it. If we pitted early for the wets, it would have ruined our race. So, the team did a fantastic job. The whole crew, Turner Motorsport, BMW, it's been excellent. And I'd like to say a big thank you to a guy who's not here this weekend, who was our number one all year, but unfortunately he broke his neck a couple of weeks ago. Is Kevin Holmes. So, without him, we wouldn't be here today.
Nice finish, guys.
Good one indeed. I'd really love to know what Turner is saying to Salama right about now.
You're the man.
That's why I pay you the big bucks. That's what he's saying.
One race remains, guys. Another
about
rolling fast racetrack. What do you think we'll see at Road Atlanta?
I think we're going to see a lot of tension. I think we'll see a great race because it's an awesome racetrack. But we saw today the twists and turns of a championship on conditions like this. Road Atlanta, it's tight, it's twisty. Guys are going to have to take chances. They're going to have to make the right calls and not make any mistakes, Dorsey.
If I had to take a championship down to the wire on any track, I'd take that racetrack at Road Atlanta any day because it rewards bravery, it rewards a fast car and steals nerves, you know.
There's the 56. We can't find the drivers, but Eric Foss and Jeff Mosing have pushed Foss into the Drivers' Championship lead in the ST class. Don't forget, the final Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge race of the season is from Road Atlanta on Petit Le Mans weekend. You will see it here on the Fox family of networks Sunday, the 12th of October at noon Eastern. Fox Sports 1, the place to watch. It's been a heck of a day here as we kick off the weekend at Circuit of the Americas. So join us again at Road Atlanta for the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge season finale when we crown the champions. For Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader, Brian Tilla, Chris Neville, I'm Bob Barsha. See you in Georgia in October. Until then, so long from Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas.